What's going on, Podcast Nation? Nick Overby here, your host of the New Agent Podcast. So I want to welcome everybody for, I'm calling this a hell of a special edition. This is a special edition of the podcast. The format has kind of moved towards where we're focusing on sales enablement and really showing the journeys and other agents. And so what's really cool about this podcast is that I get another agent in a different field who started his journey right about the time I did. We're going to talk about that. But before we get into all that, I want to introduce Jacob Narson. What's up, brother?
Everyone.
How you doing? Hold on. We'll get you a little laugh track and then a little applause. So Jacob, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. I know I've talked about you on previous podcasts because the company you work for has an influence in my business and my success. And so let's tell a little bit about who you are, and then we're going to jump back to August when you and I first met and go from there. Okay.
Sounds good. So yeah, my name is Jacob Narson. I'm the head of sales enablement and implementation here at Kennected. Kennected is a really awesome software automation company. I'm 24 years old from South Florida, Miami Beach, born and raised, and recently moved out to Indianapolis to be at the headquarters. And I'm coming up on 1 year now. It's actually going to be a year and 2 weeks that I've been at the company. So very excited for that. And yeah, our journey started at just about the same time. I think it was 3 weeks into working at Kennected when we first got connected. And that's really when I started using the tool and grasping how it all worked. And then I remember hopping on the call and meeting you for the first time. And it was you and two of the other agents, two of your buddies, and you guys were all crushing beers wearing jerseys. That's I knew that we were going to get along and have a long-standing business relationship. Yep. And that's been true. So we're here almost a year later on this podcast that I remember the very first episodes. We were talking about them, and you were trying to figure out which direction you wanted to go, and I just kept hammering you every week. Hey, why isn't the new episode out? Why isn't the new episode out? And it's crazy to see that, like, here we are now. So
it's so ironic that you say that, because the last person I talked to today before I stepped in this room was a guy named Zach, who was one of the two guys in the room with me. And he kind of just laughed and chuckled. He goes, I remember sitting in that room and thinking of how cool the product was, but just blown away by, like, God, we're so brand new. It's something we want to do. We can't afford it. But the transition now, right, to where we were then and to where we are now. And I remember leaving that conversation, and not only the conversations we had in between, but I remember telling you, like, I will, as soon as I can financially afford this and I do well, I will implement this product. And, that happened January 1st or whatever. And it's just so crazy to see that connection, and not only what sales brings, but what cool companies doing, helping people out, what kind of relationship that also brings too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been wild working here at Kennected, and starting as a salesman here. My story is kind of hilarious. One of my really good friends, Danny Wax, he's our VP of revenue here. A year ago was when he first moved up here. He had some experience in sales. He had started his own companies and then got those companies acquired. So he was doing fairly well, and he was approached by the early stages of Kennected as a prospect. Actually, they were trying to get him to purchase Kennected for one of his businesses, and he turned around and said, "No, you're going to give me this for free, and I'm going to sell it for you." So he moved up within 2 weeks, and then a month after that, him and I had reconnected, and he convinced me to move up with him as well. I really had no clue what I was getting into. He actually pulled that Wolf of Wall Street line on me. You know the scene where Leo DiCaprio shows Jonah Hill his pay stub?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I said, there is no way, that is BS. He sent me a picture of it, and I bought my flight within an hour. I hadn't even had my interview yet. I bought a one-way ticket, and actually during my interview with our former VP of sales, he was like, yeah, I want to give you a shot. You don't have much experience, so we're going to need you to come up here and at least train, if not move here. When's the earliest you could be here? And my exact words were, not to sound over eager, but I have a flight for Sunday. And it was Friday. So they said, yep, awesome. See you Monday. And the rest is history.
Dude, that's crazy. So this was your first sales job though, right?
Yeah, this is my first real sales job in the traditional sense. Never made a cold call in my life before that.
So what'd you do before that? Because just for quick background, how old are you?
I'm 24.
Okay. You hail from Miami, but what have you done since you left Miami until, last year when you were 23 and you started at Kennected?
Yeah, so born and raised in Miami, went to Miami Beach Senior High, shout out,
There you
and
go.
to Florida State University, where I met a ton of people. I really say the most valuable thing I met, or the most valuable thing I gained from college was the people I met and the knowledge on how to teach myself, right? Because not to badmouth anyone at any university, but I didn't really learn much in terms of subject, but I
Mm-hmm.
really learned how to teach myself and how to research and find like the databases I would need to educate myself. And that's really where the value of it was the relationships I'd established and those few skills that I had learned to educate myself. But, as fancy as that sounds, the story of how I ended up here is a little less fancy. I was working at a bar with three of my best friends. One of them's actually in here in the studio with me, just watching right now. Shout out Garrett.
What's going on, brother?
Yeah,
That's
we
awesome. I
worked at the
love
bar
that.
together. And Danny, our VP of revenue, was actually a patron. He used to come to the bar like every other week. And that's how we got reconnected because him and I had grown up together. But yeah, I mean, I worked as a bartender before this, going to school for literature, which is, not something I'm necessarily using now. So it's crazy how much can change because if you asked me, I would say a year ago, well, I've been here 11 and a half months. So yeah, a year ago, if you asked me if I would be here, absolutely not. Even up until the day before I decided to get that flight, I would never have believed you if you had told me that I would be here.
I love the story because I got 12 years on you, man. So I've had a little bit more of experience, especially in sales, and I can vouch for. You mentioned you never made a cold call. Cold calling sucks, but it's a nature of the beast. That's initially, besides Kennected, how you got in touch with me and effectively why we're here today. However, you have had to fight that uphill battle of being what I would call an SDR, just kind of taking it in the nuts all the time, getting told no, and whatever else comes entail with that. So, I'd be curious to know, you did it a lot younger than I did. How has that been for you, mentally, emotionally, and I mean, how has that affected your journey too? So, I apologize for the two-part question, but we'll
No,
go from
you're
there.
good. It's funny thinking back because Kennected as a company has grown so damn much in the year that I've been here. I was, in an office that would have, paint falling off the walls, carpet ripped up. My desk didn't even actually have legs. I stood it up on two chairs.
Mm-hmm.
There were like 20 people in that office. Now we have the entire floor of a beautiful building with a view of, what is it, Lucas Oil Stadium,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's awesome. And we now have, over 100 employees working here. So things have grown and changed so much in just that 1 year. And it's funny that you bring up SDRs. That didn't even exist as a role in Kennected when I got here. Everyone was full cycle. We didn't even really have training back when I started. It was sink or swim. My very first day, the people who were training me essentially said, yeah, go pick someone, sit in on their calls, see what they're doing, and see if you can do it too. And with just that advice alone, I closed my first deal 3 hours later.
No
And
shit.
yeah, I closed my first deal, and it was someone from your company who was the first person to take a chance on me. And yeah, it was about 3 hours after I started. Did it again on Wednesday that week, and then Thursday, Friday had another close. So after that, it was like really, really natural. I kind of found my niche in insurance because I really understood how Kennected fit within that ecosystem. Just did really well, like right off the bat. But that was something that my family had warned me about because like my grandparents were both salesmen. My mom was a salesman or a saleswoman when she was younger. And they're like, yeah, it comes in ebbs and flows. And they were absolutely right because it was just stroke of beginner's luck that I had hit for like 2-3 weeks when I first started. And then it was just dry spell for a bit. And that's when I really dove in and started figuring out how Kennected worked. You were one of the first people I connected with through our software when I was really learning how it worked. And I remember it took quite a while for us to actually get on that call and start talking about software. By the time we actually did, I, not to toot my own horn, had become a pro at the software. So that was kind of an interesting transition as well.
Well, I'll tell you, man, I speak about this a lot, and I from day one, I was sold on the product because of the value. Now, you don't buy stuff necessarily just based on the value of the product. You buy it also on the person selling it. And, I told you up front, I was very, very honest with you that look, I'm just starting on this. And as much as I believe in the value, because I know the value of Kennected, it's attributed to at least of my almost $500,000 this year. It's attributed to, I would say, roughly about 80 grand of that. So that for me, having that additional resource is huge. But, I remember that. And the way you handled the conversation was very, not 23-year-oldish and, not very new salesmanish, but you stuck with it. And what was important, man, and I think this is important for any new salesperson, any new agent, anybody that wants to get into sales, period, and is starting out, is that back to the people that buy people from things that they, or from things from people they trust, is that it takes a while of engagement. And Jacob you mentioned earlier about you literally were every week, hey man, I saw the podcast last week. Are you guys putting out another one? And then when I changed the format with Nick, you still were engaging. And at that point, you weren't selling me anything. No, you built a relationship, man. And that's the key to success. I just love that. And it doesn't come naturally for some people, and it does for you, man.
Yeah. I mean, a big aspect of that is really sales style. Because everyone has their own different approach. It doesn't matter if you have an executive sales training coach, teach 10 people, each of them is going to go off and sell differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
My approach has never been that traditional go for the throat, gun down and close the deal. It's people come first, right? Because once someone trusts you and you have a track record and you've helped them without asking for anything, they're going to come back and help you without asking for anything.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't, well, you still did the right thing, right? And it took, half an hour every week for me to sit down and watch your podcast, and I enjoyed it. It's not like it was a long con for the sale or anything. That's just kind of how it happened to work out with the wrong phrasing. But I really enjoyed it. I took a genuine interest. I cared about it. And on top of that, it was a podcast giving me a window into the goings on of one of my niche target markets. That was invaluable for me. So I wanted to invest into it and help you make this podcast the best it could be. And I remember after a few weeks of that, you actually closed your first piece of business off the podcast. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I did. A lady out in Georgia. Yeah, and she's still a client of mine to this day. That's awesome. So crazy. That's so wild that, yeah, I can't believe you remember that. Hey, that's really fun. Cool.
Hey man, like I said, I have a genuine interest. I care. I've been invested into this podcast for the better part of a year now, and I've learned a lot from it. I've gained a lot from it, and I'm hoping to be able to give some back today.
So that was going to be part of my next question, but I want to know real quick, because I've got some people that have influenced me not over the past year, but more so in my entire life. You mentioned your parents. I know that badass old bobblehead you got to the right of you was a gift of mom. I'll be the first person to tell you, and I will never deny it, I'm a mama's boy through and through. So my mom is a huge influence on me. Now, who are some of your biggest influencers?
Definitely parents. Got to throw that one out there. Really, it's just role models I have within work. I'm a very big believer in keeping a small circle and never being the best in that circle. Because once you are, you get lazy, you get comfortable, and you don't grow when you're comfortable. You only get up and change things when you're uncomfortable. So I always try to keep, my role models close with, not, I don't want to say too big of a skill gap or, too, much of a dream goal, like a dream role model. Like I'm sure, Michael Jordan or LeBron James is, a standard role model when people answer that question, but that's not something they're going to actually have that they can put steps in place for and work towards that. I'm a very big believer in having smaller, but many more goals and just chipping away at them one and one. So yeah, one of my big role models here is going to be my COO, Brandon Popplestein, who's kind of pulled me out of traditional sales and given me an opportunity to step into sales enablement and operations. Another one's going to be Zach Lathan, our director of operations, who actually today was promoted to VP of operations. So shout out to him. Congratulations.
Hell yeah. That's all. Look, I keep up with you guys, all your I love the marketing. What you guys truly show is that Kennected is a family. I see it in every little video that comes out on LinkedIn. I see, so real quick, there's a guy, and forgive me for not knowing his last name off the top of my head, but Chase,
Chase,
long-haired dude. He's super, I'll tell you this, man. he when he started out probably not too long ago, I can't think it's more than like
Yeah, he
6 months
started
ago.
back in January.
Okay. So he started hitting me up. And, look, I've been in the sales game long enough to know that there's always going to be a bleed over, or there's always going to be crosses. And
Yeah.
when he called me, he was like, "Hey, my name's Jason." He was super approachable, awesome dude. I was like, "Hey, man, I'm not a good client or a good prospect for you." He's like, "Well, what do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, I already used Kennected. And, Jacob I consider him a friend." And it was kind of cool. But I love that y'all have from you to him, it shows that what you guys do trickles down and everybody has that same mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Chase is a little bit of a special situation. He's one of our absolutely most optimistic and like cheerful people we have.
Yeah.
I have never seen someone churn through 100 cold calls voluntarily with a smile on their face. So we'll just leave that one at that, because Chase is a whole other animal. He's one of the leaders for our SDR team now. And he's really grown a ton as a person and a salesman. I mean, 6 months ago, he wouldn't talk to me on a phone call because he was that nervous. And now he's just banging them out for fun. So, I mean, the growth is there. The growth is absolutely there.
Look, that's grit. That's grit. That there are intangibles and tangibles in this business or in sales, right? And I believe that every day we're selling ourselves in some capacity. Some do it for money, some do it for love or sex, or whatever it is, right? I sell for money. But
Hey, no shame in that.
No, I mean, I got to pay my bills, right? Got to get it done. But I want to ask you that, because something that's extremely important in my office and comes before any dollar is ever made is the culture and how we treat people. Okay. And Perry Lunsford, who is the guy who runs my office, my direct mentor, he's been on this podcast, and he is arguably one of the coolest humans in the world. He has allowed me to find my superpower, right? And he has allowed me to be myself. So to me, culture is the foundation of our success. We're putting out $500,000 in issued AV business a week. And that's pretty big for an office of 35 people. Now, you're an example of growth, as am I. I would like to hear how much your culture is ingrained in you and how important it is for the success of your business. Absolutely.
So our culture is probably one of the most vital pieces of the puzzle here. It's one of the things I absolutely love most about Kennected. We have tons of culture initiatives. We actually just started making custom shirts. We have a Nerf war coming up, and I believe it's next week.
Wait, what? Hold on, stop the press. What? A Nerf war?
Yeah, we have a Nerf war quarterly. This time it is themed Marvel versus DC, and just my own horn here, I was the first pick for the Nerf war this year, or this quarter. So feeling pretty good about myself.
Do you have some sort of mercenary training that we don't know about that makes you a better shot?
I just have a penchant for going out and getting my own arsenal of Nerf guns instead of using the ones that the company provides.
Okay, so do you use the rivals, or do you use just the regular 60 feet per second trajectory Nerf guns?
So I have one of the rivals. I have one of the 1 series, and then I have the Nerf Mega Mastodon. In addition to, I have a Nerf grenade that hasn't been used yet. It's going to be used for the first time during this war next week. So I'm very excited to see how it goes. All
right, so I will, when we're done and I get home, I have a Nerf drone, when I say drone, it's just like a little tank, right? And it's got 3 different arms on it. But we're going way off track here. I'm sorry, but the fact that you guys are having
this is all culture stuff to us.
Well, you know what? That's what makes y'all's company. That's what makes Kennected cool. One thing I do that I find a lot of similarity between what you guys do and how y'all are led. And how we're led is that I rarely ever see pictures, and I apologize, or videos of the CEO, right? Like and when I say that, he's not in the front of everything. I've seen 1 or 2 of his things and they're hilarious, but he's not the center of attention.
What are you thinking about the nacho cheese ad?
Dude, yeah, dude. Oh my God. Yeah. The hot girl, yeah, that's awesome. Like that will forever be ingrained in, and now because it's heard, through a digital medium, it's going to be on my computer all the time. Yeah. But I'm sorry, I'll cut myself off, but I love his leadership style in the sense that he puts his team first. The people in the front, in the trenches, the ones who are making the cold calls, Chase, yourself, the guys who are really churning the business, he doesn't get in the way and take credit for it. And I love that. And I think speaks volumes about y'all's success.
So I think that's definitely one perspective, and you're not wrong. But another way to look at it is we just promote every single person in this company, like on every platform we can.
Hell yeah.
We have our media team running around the sales floor, randomly snapping pictures, editing them, and just slacking them the finished picture so they can promote their personal brand. So we could have databases of stuff to post on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever we need to. I mean, we had a freaking drone fly through the office and film. We had our reps running circles and circles around the office, and we had a drone follow it all the way through just so we can get a full walk through of the office. And that's just, we wanted a cool video. And that's just one thing we randomly did this week.
Dude, I love that. I love the documentation.
Someone has an idea and they just go to someone else. And if that person likes the idea, we're just going to snowball it out of control and it's going to happen. We like to take things to the extreme when we're getting creative. I mean, instead of, for example, getting a green screen to do some editing, we decided to paint one of our walls in the media room green entirely. So now we have an entire wall and little props that we can stand on to use the green screen, just for random culture videos. We got custom merch making gear so we could have cool customized shirts. Like you can see
the
this
one, yeah.
Got a shine to it.
Is that iridescent? Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I could see it goes purple to blue.
Yep. This was
awesome.
A custom made shirt.
Was there, you got to drop a link? What's up? Where can we get this stuff? Or is it only in-house?
So this is handmade in-house, actually.
Wait, like handmade, like you guys physically handmade in the house?
We attach the stuff to the shirt in-house.
Okay, cool. That's what I was curious.
Slapping a sticker on and then ironing it in the right way. We don't make the shirts ourselves.
Yeah.
We make the merch and we get to customize it. I'm gonna get a Kennected logo with a little beach hat on it. That's one of the ones I really want. So it's fun. I mean, different little things I know about our gong room. It's kind of a traditional sales organization thing. But one thing that actually just came in today is we ordered a ton of picture frames. We're creating a hall of fame.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you close the deal and you walk over to that gong, you're walking past all the pictures of all the people who banged it before you. So we thought that would be a cool thing. Another little random thing that our CRO does is every Friday he will wear the craziest suit jacket in.
Mm-hmm.
He will spit out a random number for the day, and the first person to hit that number effectively takes his jacket. They get to keep it. So little things like that, just to keep people engaged and have incentives that aren't, rooted in, okay, you do this, you get an extra $100. Great, $100 is $100. No one cares.
I don't need $100. Yeah.
And put it into something cool and show people you actually cared, put some thought into it. I mean, the reception's so much better.
Yeah, you're making memories, dude. Anybody can make money. And I say that, objectively, but you're giving people a reason to want to be there. And we already live in a society where going to an office isn't that cool. Cold calling is not cool. And it's now become not about what you need to do to pay your bills and to, succeed. It's really become about what's kind of cool to be done and impressing other people. And I say that loosely. I get guys in my office now that are your age, like, what's up, old man? I'm like, whatever. So I could maybe outdate myself, but I truly think the value of what you guys do and how you keep people there. I'm assuming your attrition rate's fairly low, but it's obvious that you guys have a badass culture. I think that's cool. But what I do want to touch on really quick is everybody wants to know, okay, I'm here now, but where am I going to be in a year? Right? You said you would never thought of a year ago would you be here, but did you think you'd be in a head honcho role? I mean, because you kind of are, right? Fair to say.
Yeah, I'm pretty close. I kind of have free reign over myself within the title of Sales Enablement. My job is primarily focused on making the sales team more efficient. And, that means a lot of things like tracking productivity hours and shaving time off where I can, providing them, different softwares and technologies to reduce the amount of work they have to put in to get the same results. So it's a lot of research, a lot of testing, and a lot of really cool stuff with our CRM. We recently partnered up with HubSpot. We built our HubSpot over the past 6 months to a point where we have a fairly automated sales process. I mean, we're pulling in a pretty solid amount of automated sales every week with absolutely no human interaction. But we still have a very healthy sales team that's doing extremely well. And it's all about, innovating and constantly trying new things. One thing I realized early in my sales journey, once I got the hang of how Kennected worked, is that I would, create a sequence with a target market and run that for 2, 3, 4 weeks. And the first week, the second week, I'd get good responses, but the third and fourth week, it would kind of taper off. You know, you hit the active people first on LinkedIn. That's how the algorithm works with our software. And I was just unwilling to call it quits and move on to the next sequence and find the next market, because, hey, this had worked, right? And sometimes that's the right mentality and sometimes it's not. But the biggest thing is just being willing to take that risk, you know, make that change. Because 6 months ago, I was in a completely different role with completely different focuses. All I cared about was how much revenue I could put up on the board, you know, how many people I could get into calls with, how many people I could get set up with Kennected. And now it's focused on making the team more efficient instead of myself. Because one of the things I was, you know, again, tooting my own horn, really good at was finding these little widgets and, you know, Chrome plugins that would shave a few seconds off or a few minutes off and save me time here and there. You know, things like Text Blaze where I can type /date and it'll autofill with today's date and time. You know, that saves 2-3 seconds. But when you have a sales team of 100 people using it 80 times a day each, it actually adds up. So that's one of the things that I follow. We have a big, hairy, audacious goal of saving 10,000 hours by the end of this year. I am proud to announce I am almost at the 1,000 mark. Growing exponentially. So
where are you I mean, okay, so you're at 1,000. Where are you tracking by the end of the year?
We're trying to get to 10,000. That's our goal.
Well, I mean, given your production so far, are you tracking to hit that number?
It's looking close. We might come in just under, but honestly, going into this, I said that 7,000 would be where I'd be happy. And if we hit 10,000, you know, that's hitting our big, hairy, audacious goal.
I have a firm belief in the statement that I would rather you aim high and miss than aim low and hit.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, it's I've got a big goal for this year too. I actually have it taped to my laptop, and because it has to be a constant reminder. You mentioned earlier how you tackled the micro, right? But the micro is also part of the macro, and you know, I tell new agents coming in, because for anybody, and I wanted to get your take on this too in your industry, but for new agents coming in, what I do is very scary. Okay. You're commission based. You talk to USHA agents, you know what, you know, the ins and outs. You've seen the podcast, but I will say that this is a very scary industry. Right. And I don't know. It just takes a lot, but I want to know from your end more so how, the best way to word this, how you train new agents to not be scared as hell of the micro dailies so they can get to the macro. Because I know that you have, I mean, having a big influence over sales, enablement, you have an influence over sales. So.
Yeah. So one, I'm not really sure what specifically you're asking. So I'm just going to take.
Okay. So let me ask you. Okay. So when new agents come in here, it's scary to know that you have to make cold calls. You have to do these tasks. You have to sit, you know, essentially go through the little clicks, you know, knowing that it's going to take me X amount of time. How do you prepare people for that in your side of the world?
So I work very closely together with our VP of sales and our CRO with the team. And one of the things our CRO, he was a former executive trainer at Sandler. He's absolutely outstanding at getting our team trained up. He's actually running Hell Week for our new round of hires right now. And we are actively hiring. Figured I'd just mention that real quick.
Absolutely.
For cold calls, one of the things we actually do is called No Bingo. Have you ever heard of it?
No, but I would love to hear this, because we are always looking for ways to hype up the new reps when it comes to cold calls.
So during, you know, the first few weeks here, we have something called No Bingo, which is used as a punishment moving forward once they've graduated, got their legs under them. But No Bingo is essentially a bingo card that our CRO put together that has a bunch of, you know, embarrassing rejection focused tasks, right? So something like one of the boxes would be go to a nice restaurant and ask for a free meal, because you're probably going to hear a no.
Yeah. Okay.
As a new sales rep, I mean, someone who's already uncomfortable with cold calls, that's going to be a pretty uncomfortable situation, right? Or something like go ask out 5 strangers on a date on the street outside the office, and they just have to go stand out there with someone as a witness to go ahead and, you know, ask 5 people, get 5 no's, and then they can mark that off on bingo. And then we have like little incentive prizes if it's still, you know, the early stages of No Bingo, not being used as punishment. to reward people who actually get a line across for bingo. We got a bunch of really cool stuff. I'm going to go ahead and ask him if he can get me one of those so I can send you over what we actually use for it. Chase, who you mentioned earlier, was one of the first victims of no bingo. He had to go out, and I remember the funniest one was he was having a great week, like, booking lots of meetings, all that good stuff. And then he just hit a really hard slump, had absolutely nothing for the day. And they came in the next day and they're like, yeah, you have to get 20 no's. And he's like, but I want them to say yes. He's like, yeah, but here's the thing. By the end of the day, you need to get rejected 20 times. Like, I don't want that. I hate the feeling of being rejected. And now, a rejection is just a rejection. He doesn't really care. It doesn't impact his day. So that kind of no bingo really hammered home that getting a yes or a no is pretty much one and the same, and it's going to happen. And then, the forceful aspect of them having to go out and do that, publicly in front of, their coworkers to a stranger and get rejected by a bunch of different types of strangers in different situations. They're going to be way more resilient to, oh, I'm going to dial this number. I don't care if they say no, and they're just going to pick up the phone. That's one specific for cold calls. For me, when I was a new rep, again, things were a lot less developed at Kennected. Me and one of my office mates kept a bottle of tequila in our drawer. And for every 20, 30, I don't remember how many calls it was, we would take a shot. And that would give us that little liquid confidence. And while I don't necessarily recommend alcoholism, it can help take the edge off. Don't be afraid to drink a beer if your company's cool with it. Of course, you just got to,
absolutely, yeah.
As long as your company's cool with it, or take a shot of your favorite liquor, just to take the edge off. Even if you can't, like, feel free to have a beer at lunch if you've had a bad morning. You want to come back to the office more relaxed. You don't want to be a salesman calling someone who doesn't want to be called while you have a stick up your ass. Yeah. You want to call someone who doesn't want to be called with a friendly, pleasant approach. You want them to say, this is actually someone I'd like to talk to, right? And then you can have real, honest conversations, develop the relationship from there instead of just cold call. You want what I'm selling? No. Crap, bye. Cold call. I'm selling? No. Crap, bye. Because if that's the methods they're going for, you're just going to burn out.
Yeah, you will. You're
going to burn out too quickly.
Well, and here's the thing is that people sense that, there's somebody else on the other end of the line. And I think in my experience, a lot of times people just don't take themselves out of it, in which, they involve their emotions. And then it's like, oh, he said no to me. Dude, just stop it, relax. It's not the end of the world. And people take it that way. At least in my experience it is what it is, just deal with it. I love the no bingo, dude, the no bingo though. Okay. Yeah. Please. So do send me that. That's going to be,
I will get you our no bingo game over to you. It's hilarious. It's so much fun to watch actually be played live. Cause I'm not part of that team. So I just kind of get to be a voyeur and watch. And it's always hilarious seeing how some of the newer reps are like super timid and like going to do some of the more simple things, like ask a stranger for $1, right? That can make a newer rep uncomfortable, even just getting a no for over $1. Whereas someone like Chase would more than happily walk into the nicest steakhouse in Indianapolis and demand a free table, like over and over and over, to get 5 no's all at once just to knock him out quicker. He's so comfortable. It's second nature. And, you're never going to be disappointed when you get a no now, but you will be extremely thrilled when you get a yes.
Absolutely.
It's opposite dynamic. You don't want getting the yes to be like, this is what's supposed to happen, right? At least not in the way that you frame it in your mind, because you're just going to be disappointed. If the no is normal and the yes is the variant, the reward, the special situation where you exceeded all odds, like, that's awesome. That deserves a dopamine rush. That deserves, you go bang that gong, you celebrate. We don't want to do that, the other way around.
I absolutely love that way of thinking. And you said it, it's a mindset. It's all mindset. It's entrepreneurial, in every sense of the word, right? Because you talked about the things that people don't often associate with. At least they hear the word and it's cool, it's an influencer word, but it really is about getting your ass kicked, learning or relearning who you are, what you can take personally, right? And how you can become better from it. That's my opinion. And
be honest with yourself,
Yeah.
People spend so much time, not necessarily here, but in general, in roles that they don't necessarily understand.
Mm-hmm.
We've had people come through who really don't understand what the role entails, and having to put yourself out there and network and meet people and be forceful because they don't understand why the value is there, but not be aggressive or an asshole or something like that. There's a very fine line.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not for everyone. Personally, I'm still pretty heavily involved in sales, and I still do sales, but my focus isn't on sales. It's on sales enablement. I've been able to step kind of out of the day-to-day sales and look at the bigger picture over the last roughly 6 months and just help bridge the gap and fill the holes for the team. And that's really where I've been able to thrive, is working in our CRM, automating, mundane tasks, making things easier for our team so that they can be the best that they can be in the easiest way that we can have that possible.
I love it, man. Putting other people first. So we are about out of time, man. I would like for you to, shamelessly promote Kennected. Tell everybody, look, I love the product, right? I'll shamelessly promote you guys because what you guys do, not only from a financial standpoint for me personally, has also enabled me to create some really cool relationships. And if nothing else is taken from this podcast, please know that the relationships you build will inevitably be the catalyst to your success. I don't care how you frame it. That's my personal opinion. It's proven in my life. And so without further ado, tell us about Kennected.
Yeah, absolutely. Shameless plug time. So Kennected is a LinkedIn automation software tool, but it's so much more than that. And Nick can attest to this. We are an education first platform. We care more about educating you than just getting you the tool. Because if I give you a hammer, no nails, no manual on how to build, you're going to hammer my head in, right? So we stress having a pretty intensive onboarding process to train you up, make sure you know how to leverage the tool, leverage all the LinkedIn tips and tricks and things that you can do. We actually just added a whole new call to our onboarding process. We have one dedicated call just for profile optimizations now. And our team actually goes and does some work ahead of time to Photoshop you a really cool customized banner. And one of my close buddies from FSU, from the bar, Garrett, is on that team now, and he's kind of spearheading that initiative. So we work really hard to give you the best outlook on LinkedIn, give you an attractive profile as a revenue generation tool, right? And then where Kennected comes in is it's going to automate the outreach and the follow-up with people in your niche target market or whatever target market you specify. It's going to hit them with a connection message, right? Once they accept, it's going to follow up with them up until they do respond to you. And then you just pick up the conversation like normal, right? And that's just Kennected in a vacuum. We actually recently just launched Kennected Video. Don't know if you've heard about that yet, but we have a video tool that lets you record video. If you use something like Loom or like CoVideo or Vidyard, it's pretty comparable. But again, if you want something done right, do it yourself. We decided there were a few features that we wanted that we actually did recommend to those companies. And they said, yeah, not really worth our time. So we decided to do it ourselves. And now we have Kennected Video. So that's another tool in the arsenal. It does natively integrate into LinkedIn. So you can film videos on your phone on the LinkedIn mobile app and send them right in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, it's awesome. So Kennected is going to simplify your conversations with the decision makers, right?
Yep. I'll attest to that. It certainly does. Well, Mr. Narson, I appreciate your time. I appreciate Kennected for, yeah, brother. Well, so there's a lot of things I didn't get to touch base on. And so what my thought process was is that next one we're going to do in that studio there.
Absolutely, man. We'll have to do part 2 in person.
I'm 100% up for that. So until then, man, you go crush your day. I love the growth. I love your attitude. I love what you guys do. Keep impacting people. You're a badass. And thank you again.
Appreciate the support, Nick. As always, same to you.
Later, brother.
Have a good one, man.